The Galactic Imperium was a massive, oppressive regime that spanned across countless star systems. It was feared throughout the galaxy, with an iron grip on planets and species far more advanced than Earth. Their fleets were vast, their weapons devastating, and their presence alone could bring entire civilizations to their knees. No one dared to defy the Imperium until Earth became their target. It all began when the Imperium's command ship, the Valkorion, intercepted a routine human trade convoy. The general aboard the flagship, a ruthless alien named General Varrock, was known for his merciless campaigns against the lesser species of the galaxy. His face was cold and stern, his eyes glowing with the promise of destruction. The Empire had already conquered countless planets, and now they set their sights on Earth. Through their advanced communication systems, the Imperium broadcasted a message across the human world. "Attention, Earth," the deep voice of General Varrock boomed. "Your planet has been deemed a primitive backwater. Your technological advancement is insufficient to resist the might of the Galactic Imperium. Surrender immediately, or face obliteration. You have 1 week to respond." The humans were not prepared for this. They were not even sure how to react. Earth's leaders quickly convened emergency meetings, gathering scientists, strategists, and diplomats. Yet, as the days passed and the deadline approached, something unexpected happened. There was no panic, no fear. Instead, across the globe, a strange sense of calm took over. On Earth, people had long known that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology, nor its weapons. It was its resilience, its wit, and its ability to adapt. The idea of surrender never even crossed their minds. Instead, humanity's response was something entirely different: laughter. Social media exploded with memes, jokes, and sarcastic comments about the Imperium's so-called threat. From the streets of New York to the bustling markets of Tokyo, people found humor in the Empire's arrogance. One particularly viral meme showed the Valkorion with a ridiculous caption: "When your spaceship is bigger than your brain." Other memes featured aliens with exaggerated expressions of confusion, as if they couldn't comprehend the human response. The Empire, of course, had no idea what to make of this. They expected fear, desperation, maybe even some form of negotiation. Instead, they were met with ridicule. On every human news channel, shows ran skits mocking the Imperium's demands, turning their fleet into a punchline. For the first time in history, the galaxy saw humans not as an insignificant species, but as one capable of defying an empire with nothing more than humor. Back on Earth, some military leaders were uneasy about the lighthearted response. They had known for years that Earth was underprepared for any large-scale interstellar conflict. But they also knew one thing: human creativity could turn the tide in any battle. A small group of engineers and strategists, many of them former military experts, gathered in secret. They knew the Imperium was not just threatening Earth, it was testing them, and humans would not be found wanting. As the week went on, Earth's laughter only grew louder. News outlets in multiple languages repeated the Empire's message, but this time, the jokes were even more exaggerated. A famous comedian, known for his dry wit, posted a live stream titled, "How to Beat the Imperium with One Punchline." The world watched as he calmly mocked the general's face and the grandeur of the Empire's fleet. Then, on the final day of the deadline, a new broadcast came through. General Varrock's face appeared on every screen, his expression twisted in fury. "This is your last chance, humans. If you do not surrender, we will show you the full power of the Imperium." His voice was like a growl, a promise of annihilation. But again, there was no fear, only laughter. Earth's response was simple: a message sent directly to the Imperium. It was a video of a human laughing uncontrollably, holding up a sign that read, "We're good, thanks for the offer." For the Imperium, this was unthinkable. The idea that their empire could be laughed at, mocked, and so easily dismissed filled their commanders with rage. They had never met a species like this before. The human response was so unexpected, so bizarre, that it caught them completely off guard. As Varroc's fleet made its way toward Earth, the general's fury burned hotter than ever. He could not believe that the humans, a species he deemed insignificant, were mocking him. He would teach them a lesson they would never forget. But the humans, on their end, were preparing, not for battle, but for something else entirely. And the Empire would soon find out that underestimating humanity was the worst mistake they could ever make. The Galactic Imperium's fleet loomed over Earth, its vast ships casting shadows over the planet's surface. General Varroc's rage had reached its peak. He had expected a show of fear, but instead, he had been mocked. The humans had dared to laugh at the mighty Imperium. He had already sent his demands, and now, the time for patience was over. With a wave of his hand, Varroc issued the command to launch the assault. His fleet, filled with the most advanced warships in the galaxy, prepared to crush Earth's defenses with overwhelming force. Their ships were massive, glowing with energy shields, equipped with laser cannons and advanced weaponry designed to obliterate anything in its path. They were the pinnacle of Imperial technology, and they would not fail. The first human vessels that appeared on the radar were tiny in comparison. Earth's military ships were laughably small, outdated relics of a bygone era. They were nothing more than armed transport ships and civilian cargo vessels retrofitted for combat. No match for the might of the Imperium. The humans didn't even stand a chance, or so Varroc thought. The battle began. The Imperium opened fire first, their lasers flashing across space like deadly streaks of light. The human ships, though much slower, skillfully dodged the incoming fire. The maneuvering was erratic, nothing like the calculated movements of the Imperium's fleet, but it worked. The human ships darted and weaved, their crews expertly guiding their vessels through the firestorm of laser blasts. At first, the Imperium commanders laughed at the humans' desperate attempts to evade them. How could these primitive ships possibly stand up to their power? Their amusement was short-lived. One human ship, a sleek frigate named the Perseverance, darted into the heart of the Imperial fleet. With surprising speed, it released a series of small drones, seemingly harmless, yet they began to attach themselves to the nearest Imperial ship. The drones didn't explode. Instead, they emitted a powerful electromagnetic pulse, scrambling the Imperial ship's electronics. Chaos erupted across the Imperium's fleet. Ships that had been firing in perfect coordination were suddenly in disarray. Communication lines were severed. Some ships found themselves drifting aimlessly in space, unable to respond to commands. The Empire's advanced technology, so proud and powerful, had been temporarily neutralized by a simple human tactic, a mix of old-school technology and ingenuity. Varroc watched in disbelief. How could this be? His fleet, armed with the best weapons the galaxy had ever seen, was being outmaneuvered by a species he considered beneath him. He ordered his fleet to retaliate, but his orders were not enough to restore order. The chaos spread. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans watched the events unfold in real time. Some were still in disbelief, staring at their screens as they saw their ships go toe-to-toe with the mighty Empire. Others, however, had known from the beginning that this was just the beginning of something far more interesting. They understood how the human mind worked, creative, adaptable, and unpredictable. One group of engineers and tacticians, working in secret with the military, had planned for this very moment. They knew the Imperium would expect the humans to fight with traditional weapons and tactics, so they had developed a countermeasure, a combination of EMP devices, hacking tools, and old-school physical warfare tactics that would throw the Empire into confusion. Back in space, the Perseverance's captain, a calm and calculating officer named Captain Elias Vance, was leading the charge. He had expected the Imperium to be technologically advanced, but he had also understood something crucial. No matter how advanced a force was, it could never predict the creative thinking of a human mind. He grinned as he watched the Imperium struggle, knowing that this was just the start. Varroc, furious and humiliated, decided to focus his efforts on the human flagship, the Perseverance. He ordered every available ship to converge on it and destroy it once and for all. The combined might of the Imperium's fleet bore down on the tiny human vessel. But the Perseverance had a secret weapon. As the Imperial ships closed in, Captain Vance activated a brilliant maneuver. The ship deployed a series of decoy drones, each one mimicking the human ship's signature. The Imperium's fleet, confused and unable to tell which ship was the real target, opened fire on the wrong ones. For a moment, it seemed as though the battle would end in a decisive victory for the Imperium. But humanity was not finished yet. Vance's crew, working tirelessly under pressure, managed to scramble the communications of one of the largest Imperial warships. The resulting confusion caused the ship to fire on its own fleet, creating chaos and further weakening the Empire's assault. The Empire's flagship, the Valkorion, now in disarray, had lost its edge. Varrock, sensing the tide of battle shifting, clenched his fists. How could this happen? The humans were nothing more than a nuisance, yet here they were, fighting back with incredible creativity and resourcefulness. The battle was far from over, but the Empire had learned a valuable lesson. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The battle between the Galactic Imperium and Earth had only just begun, but the balance of power was already shifting. The Empire's once confident fleet was now reeling from the unexpected tactics of the human ships. General Varrock, his fury rising by the minute, watched helplessly as his ships faltered. He had underestimated the humans, and now they were proving themselves far more dangerous than he could have imagined. Despite the chaos, the Imperium was not about to give up. They quickly regrouped, launching an even more brutal offensive against the small human ships. But as the Imperial fleet advanced, they found themselves facing more surprises at every turn. Humanity had always prided itself on its creativity, and it was this quality that now became the Imperium's worst nightmare. The human fleet had no chance of matching the Empire in raw firepower, but they had something far more dangerous, a mix of old technology, cunning, and a complete refusal to back down. The Perseverance, the flagship of the human fleet, remained at the heart of the battle. Its captain, Elias Vance, was known for his calm demeanor and tactical brilliance. As the battle raged around him, he sat at his command desk, watching the live feed of Imperial ships scrambling to deal with the human tactics. But Captain Vance knew this was only the beginning. He had a secret weapon that would change everything. While the Imperium relied on their highly advanced weapon systems, the humans had developed a unique form of warfare, one that combined low-tech gadgets with high-stakes psychological warfare. The human ships were equipped with cloaking devices that worked in unexpected ways. Rather than using traditional invisibility cloaks, the human engineers had invented a system that scattered energy signals, making it impossible for the Empire's sensors to track them properly. The result was confusion on an unprecedented scale. Imperial officers barked orders, trying to compensate for the unpredictable movements of the human ships. Yet every time they locked onto a target, it seemed to vanish or change course at the last second. Human ships didn't just dodge laser fire, they used the very fabric of space to their advantage, creating confusion through clever use of energy signatures and tactics that defied all Imperial logic. One of the most shocking developments, however, was the arrival of a strange new human technology. On Earth, a group of scientists had been working in secret on a project that had the potential to change the entire course of the war. It was a weapon that combined human creativity with alien technology, an energy weapon designed to disrupt Imperial shields and weapons at a molecular level. When the weapon was finally deployed, the results were immediate and staggering. Human ships fired concentrated energy pulses that caused Imperial shields to flicker and collapse. The once impenetrable force fields surrounding the Empire's warships now failed under the pressure of these new human weapons. General Varrock could hardly believe his eyes as his flagship's shield system began to flicker and sputter. "What is this?" he demanded, slamming his fist on the console. His officers scrambled to identify the source of the new weapon, but it was no use. Humanity had managed to create something that the Imperium had never seen before. Even more bewildering was the psychological warfare that accompanied the new weapon. As the human fleet launched their attacks, they sent loud, strange signals across the comm channels. These signals weren't just disruptive. They were designed to confuse, to break the resolve of the enemy. The signals were layered with strange sounds, messages, and even images that disoriented the Imperium's commanders. The general was now in a state of disbelief. How could this be happening? His fleet, with its superior weaponry and tactics, was being outsmarted by a race of humans who had no business fighting at this level. But humanity's ability to think outside the box, to adapt and overcome, was proving to be their greatest strength. On the ground, Earth's leaders were watching the battle unfold on their screens, a mix of pride and fear in their hearts. They knew their ships weren't as powerful as the Empire's, but they had something more valuable: unity. People from all over the world were rallying behind their military, supporting the effort with resources, technology, and ingenuity. It was clear that humanity would not go down without a fight. Back in space, the battle continued to rage, but the Imperium's edge was beginning to slip away. Human ships, once small and insignificant, now moved with purpose and precision. They worked together like a well-oiled machine, each ship supporting the others, using their collective strength to push back the Imperial forces. But Varrock was not finished yet. He ordered his fleet to regroup, to re-establish their superior firepower. He was confident that his forces could still crush the humans. What he didn't realize was that humanity's best weapon was still hidden. The secret weapon that Captain Vance had been preparing for was now ready, and the final stage of humanity's fight for survival was about to begin. And as the humans stood strong, confident in their cleverness and unity, the Imperium had no idea that the real battle had only just begun. General Varrock stood at the center of his command room, staring at the star maps and holographic displays before him. His face was a mask of fury, his mind racing with thoughts of how this had gone so wrong. The Empire had never been bested like this. Human tactics had outmaneuvered them at every turn, and their new weapon, something so simple and yet so effective, had shattered his confidence. What had once seemed like an easy conquest now felt like an impossible task. With a sharp motion, Varrock turned to his officers. "Regroup the fleet," he ordered. "We will destroy them. No more games." The Imperium had long prided itself on its superior technology, but the humans had exposed its weaknesses. Despite their advanced weaponry, the Empire could not predict how humans would fight. Varrock's fleet, while formidable, was now bogged down in a game they couldn't understand. The human ships, small and seemingly insignificant, were a constant thorn in the side of the Empire's mighty forces. The Valkorion, the flagship of the Imperium, commanded the attack. The ship's massive weapons were powerful enough to obliterate entire planets. Yet, as they closed in on the human ships, they found their own shields and weapons malfunctioning. The human tactic of using electromagnetic pulses had been more effective than anyone could have guessed. And now, even Varrock's flagship was struggling to maintain its position in the fight. As his fleet struggled, Varrock issued another order: deploy the heavy assault units. It's time to show them the full power of the Empire. But the humans had a counter for that too. On Earth, humans had been preparing for this very moment. While the Imperium believed it had caught the humans off guard, the truth was that the human forces had been quietly preparing their own secret weapon. For months, teams of engineers, scientists, and military strategists had been working on a new kind of weapon, one that would surprise the Imperium in a way they would never expect. The weapon was not like anything the Empire had seen before. It was a massive ship, something the humans called the Ironclad. It had been kept secret, hidden from the Empire's sensors, and now it was ready to make its move. The Ironclad wasn't just a ship, it was a fortress. Its armor was reinforced with a new material discovered deep within Earth's crust, making it nearly invulnerable to the Empire's weapons. Its weapon systems were unlike anything the Imperium had encountered. Rather than relying on traditional energy weapons, the ironclad used gravity-based technology to disrupt the space around it. The result was devastating. Anything within a certain radius of the ship would be pulled and crushed by intense gravitational forces. As the human fleet regrouped, Captain Vance, aboard the Perseverance, received the signal to deploy the ironclad. The order was simple: engage the Imperial fleet and show them the true power of humanity. With a low rumble, the massive ship broke through the atmosphere and entered space. Its presence was a sight to behold. The ironclad was enormous, its dark hull glistening in the distant starlight. The ship's power was beyond anything the Imperium could fathom. It moved with a steady, terrifying pace toward the heart of the Imperial fleet. The first signs of its power were subtle. As the ironclad approached, it emitted a low-frequency signal. The nearby Imperial ships began to feel strange. Their navigation systems faltered, and their shields began to flicker. The gravity fields around the ironclad were affecting them. With a sudden pulse, the ship unleashed its gravitational weapon. One of the largest Imperial cruisers, a vessel that had been confidently advancing toward Earth, suddenly began to twist and buckle under the strain. It was as if the very fabric of space around it had been torn apart. Within moments, the ship's hull collapsed in on itself, crushed by the immense gravitational forces. The Imperium was stunned. They had never seen anything like this. The power of the ironclad was unimaginable. Varrock watched in horror as his fleet began to fall apart. One by one, the Empire's ships were disabled, their hulls buckling under the weight of the gravitational waves. The Empire's advanced weaponry was no match for this new kind of force. Desperation set in among the Imperium's officers. Activate all defenses. Fire everything. They screamed, but it was too late. The humans had tipped the scales of the war, and the Empire's technological superiority had crumbled in the face of creativity and resourcefulness. Varrock's face turned red with anger and fear. He had once believed that the Imperium was invincible, but now it was clear that the humans had found a way to defeat them. The power of the ironclad was unstoppable, and no matter how much Varrock tried to rally his forces, he knew in his heart that the battle was lost. Humanity had proven something the Empire could never understand: that sometimes it wasn't the size of the weapon or the strength of the fleet. It was the will and ingenuity of the people fighting with everything they had. And with that realization, the Imperium's arrogance began to unravel. The ironclad stood as an unshakable symbol of humanity's determination. It had torn through the Imperial fleet with unmatched power, crushing warships under the immense gravitational forces it generated. The once proud Imperial armada, seemingly unbeatable, was now on the brink of collapse. But General Varrock wasn't ready to admit defeat just yet. He stood on the bridge of the Valkorion, the flagship of the Imperium, his fists clenched in fury. Around him, his officers scrambled, trying desperately to make sense of the chaos. The ironclad had destroyed their greatest ships, their most advanced technologies now useless. They had been outsmarted, and Varrock knew that his once indomitable fleet was no match for the human ingenuity they had just witnessed. "Prepare the Valkorion for a direct assault," Varrock ordered, his voice cold but laced with desperation. "We're taking the ironclad down ourselves." The Imperium had one last weapon left in its arsenal, a weapon so powerful it could obliterate anything in its path. The Valkorion's main cannon, capable of firing a concentrated blast strong enough to destroy a moon, was their final hope. If they couldn't defeat the ironclad with their fleet, they would have to do it with sheer firepower. As the Valkorion powered up its main cannon, a sense of tension hung in the air. The human fleet, though battered, was not about to let the Empire get away with another attack. Captain Elias Vance, aboard the Perseverance, knew this was it. They had to end this now, before the Imperium could launch its devastating blast. "Prepare the ironclad for the final push," Vance said, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. He had led his fleet this far, and now he had to make sure they finish what they started. "Engage gravitational disruptors at full power." We end this here. The ironclad surged forward, its massive bulk cutting through space like a predator hunting its prey. The gravitational waves it emitted sent shockwaves through the Imperial fleet, throwing their ships off course. Yet the Valkorion was determined to make its last stand. With its main cannon charge, the Empire's flagship fired a blast of pure destruction. The beam of energy shot out, a blinding flash of light racing toward the ironclad. But humanity's secret weapon was not so easily defeated. As the blast neared, the ironclad deployed a powerful electromagnetic shield, and the energy wave collided with it. There was a moment of deafening silence, and then, to the shock of everyone watching, the blast simply disappeared. The shield had absorbed the blast, dispersing the energy harmlessly into space. General Varrock's eyes widened in disbelief. His final weapon, his last chance to end this war, had failed. Captain Vance wasted no time. With the Valkorion temporarily stunned by its failed attack, the Perseverance and the rest of the human fleet moved in. Vance knew this was their opportunity to strike the killing blow. The human ships coordinated flawlessly, each ship moving as if they had been one entity. They didn't have the firepower of the Empire, but they had something far more valuable: unity. The ironclad positioned itself in front of the Valkorion, its immense size dwarfing the Imperial flagship. The gravitational disruptors fired again, this time with full force, and the Valkorion was caught in the waves of crushing gravity. Its shields began to buckle, its hull groaning under the pressure. The flagship of the Imperium was being slowly crushed by the forces of nature itself. Varrock, standing on the bridge of the Valkorion, felt the ship tremble beneath him. His mind raced, but there was no escaping it. He had underestimated the humans, their cleverness, their resilience. And now, it seemed, they were going to win. "General, we can't hold on much longer," one of his officers said, his voice trembling. "We must retreat. Now." Varrock hesitated for a moment, but he knew the truth. The battle was lost. His fleet had been shattered. His weapons were useless. The humans' ingenuity had broken the Imperium's grip on the galaxy. He turned, his face a mask of fury and shame. "Retreat," he ordered coldly. "Get us out of here. We're leaving this system." The remaining Imperial ships, battered and broken, turned and fled, retreating into the deep void of space. The battle was over. Earth had won. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted. The humans had faced an empire that had crushed countless civilizations, and they had emerged victorious. The news spread like wildfire. From the quietest villages to the busiest cities, from the richest nations to the poorest, humanity had proven itself to the galaxy. Against all odds, against a seemingly unbeatable foe, they had fought back and won. Captain Elias Vance stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, watching the Imperial fleet retreat into the distance. It had been a long, hard fight, but humanity had shown the galaxy its true strength. A strength that was not measured in firepower or technology, but in the hearts and minds of the people who refused to give up. The Imperium had learned a harsh lesson that day. They had underestimated humanity, and in doing so, they had sealed their own defeat. As Earth watched the stars once more, they knew one thing for certain: humanity was not to be trifled with, and no empire, no matter how powerful, could ever break their will.